as you're going out and sharing who you are and what you do, feel free to own what makes you you and not have to mold yourself into what you think your audience wants or what you think your client wants or what you think that next opportunity wants from you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Frustrated to Fluent. I'm Devon Bruce. I'm the founder and CEO of the English Communication Academy. We help non native English speakers in healthcare communicate effectively with their patients, colleagues, and staff. And today I'm speaking with Blessing Santoro. With over 8 years in the industry as a messaging and marketing strategist, Blessing has supported agencies and business owners on six-figure launches and seven-figure brand projects by bringing strategy and creativity together to create client attracting systems that flow naturally, intentionally, and in a way that gets the right clients to say yes. So, Blessing, thank you very much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. That was quite an intro. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm really excited to talk to you today because we're going to be talking about something that people would never expect on a podcast like this. It's towards non-native English speakers in healthcare. And we're going to be talking about personal branding. And some people might be like, okay, what does this have to do with language learning or, non-native English speakers in healthcare? And we're going to talk. It has everything to do with non-native English speakers in healthcare. And I've written about personal branding before on my newsletter, and I had some really good responses on it. So when we crossed paths, I was like, "Oh, let's talk about it." So yeah, I'm so excited to let people know just how important personal branding is in this space because it's not just about the words coming out of your mouth.
No, absolutely. What I love about personal branding is this is an opportunity to fully embrace your identity. So the same way we have our culture, we have our language, we
Mhm.
have just the unique aspects that we have as individuals. All of that gets to be a part of our personal branding. So I would say it's really about your identity and giving yourself the opportunity to share that with the rest of the world so that they can get a sense of who you are, your value, your what it's like to even interact with you, right? Maybe it's not even just for your clients, but really just so that anyone who is coming into contact with you just gets a sense of this is the real her.
Love it. Yes. All right, so let's just start with the basic definition because I feel like people
Yeah.
they've heard of personal branding, but they might not necessarily know what it means. So, what does personal branding mean, especially in a professional working in healthcare?
Yeah. For the person who is the professional, at that point, it's really just telling the story of what, especially in healthcare, what care looks like with you, right? So it's about how do you convey the experience, the the way that you interact with people so that they can achieve that thing that they want, right? So if it's in healthcare, we're talking about how that person can feel relief, how that person can find support and comfort, how their families can find support, how they can feel that there's someone else to lean on to for information and knowledge, right? Being able to share that story without it being always technical, right? I think the thing that gets we get caught up in personal branding is it has to sound perfect when in reality, we're just trying to tell
Mhm.
a story. The same way we can have conversations and I can tell you a story about, oh, I remember back when, that's the same essence that we want to give in our personal brandings. This is just the story of what's happened and why I'm here to share it with you today.
Oh, that's very interesting. And the way that we can incorporate that for non-native English speakers in healthcare is beyond exciting for me, because we work really hard in the academy to make sure that people feel seen, people feel heard, and that their brilliance can shine through despite English not being their first language. So, having said that, what's the biggest misconception people have about personal branding?
I think the number one thing is that it has to mean social media. It has to mean, dancing on reels or going viral or things like that. And truly, at its most simple form, it's just leaning into your strengths and leaning into your values and bringing those to the surface so that people can connect with them. I love to think about people who have well, even just me. You can see in my background here, I have paintings and stuff like this. And that's all part of my own personal branding. I'm a colorful person and I want people to know that. And whether it's not something that I outright say, it's a part of that whole thing. So, beyond the words that we say, it's also the way we just present ourselves, and it's not about being professional, but at least getting people to understand us the way that we want to be perceived. Let me know if
Mm.
that answers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense because something that
Mhm,
I have heard before, like we do so for example, in the academy, we work with the individual doctor all the way to the healthcare organization. And sometimes when we're doing trainings for the organizations, sometimes and we talk about personal branding, sometimes people are like, "Well, why do we need this because I don't own a business."
mhm.
And it's like, "Oh no, it's not that kind of branding. It's different. It's your own
It's
company pretty
you.
much like your own
Yeah,
like your identity. That's what we're talking about. So I'm glad that you brought that up that it's not about the social media aspect or like I said a personal business. It's just what you bring, who you are and how people identify or perceive you. So that makes yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
100%. I think a part of it, it's just remembering too that it's about clarity, right? We can have the content that looks fun or goes viral, but at the end of the day, it's really just did did the message that I want to share get across? That's it. That's
Yeah.
really
And the people that we serve couldn't be any more different, but we are literally doing the same thing. How
Yes,
can we help the people that we serve get their message across, get their point across?
absolutely. If I wasn't doing this, I'd definitely be working in the language space, so I feel you. It's all communication.
Yes, it is. It really is. And that's actually a good segue into my next question because we've talked about okay, we have an idea of what personal branding is, but what role do language and communication play in shaping someone's brand, especially for non-native English speakers? Because for non-native English speakers, they have that extra layer of trying to come across a certain way and a lot of that's from fear. They don't wanna be seen as less than. So, how does language and communication come into this?
Yeah, I think it goes back to intentionality, the same way that you and I, are having a conversation. My goal is for you to understand and for your audience to understand, my own ideas and opinions and perspective. It's the same thing when we're presenting ourselves with our personal brand. It's the intentionality. So it's not that we're looking for the perfect words or perfect grammar or the best English or high level vocabulary. We're looking for accuracy. We're looking at how am I communicating what I do in the most accurate way? How am I telling the story of my process or my approach or the impact of my work or the impact of my responsibility and role? How is that coming across in the most accurate way? And that doesn't need to be perfect or grammatically correct. It can be
Mhm.
very casual. Like I say sometimes, I just help people with words. And so it's you get to have fun with how you communicate. And I think that's the part that we get to remember. This gets to be fun because it's a part of who you are, and your communication style can be absolutely your own.
Yeah, I agree with you again on that just because when I'm thinking about my personal branding, one thing that I really want to be is authentic, and I'm specifically talking about my reels and my
Mhm.
shorts because my reels are over a trap beat. Like, I want people to bop their head while they're learning some knowledge, And if
I
I
love
came
it.
out because on paper, I have my own company working with like global leaders, that sounds
Mhm.
very fancy. And then the knowledge that I'm dropping on my reels are over a trap beat, it's authentically me. And I felt like if I had to like be all highbrow and, like super, super businessy with it, that's not me because the
Yeah.
knowledge that I have is what's the most important. And so, I'm glad that you spoke on that because it's not just about the words that you say, it's the vibe, you know?
It's the vibe.
It's the vibe that
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah, like you said, it's is that vibe coming across clearly? Like, it doesn't need to be perfect, professional, or fancy. It just needs to come across clearly. Like, what is the best way for people to get to know that you're the expert at what you do, or that you just really love what you do and it's helping others? How can that come across the most clearly? That's really
Yeah.
it.
Yep. That is all it is. Now I know that you touched on it's not necessarily social media, and that's one of the misconceptions. But I do want to talk about LinkedIn for a little bit, just because
Sure.
I know that a lot of people that work with us in general, they are very career driven. So they either want to get promoted or they want to start their own practices, depending on like what part of healthcare they're in. They're trying to get published if they're on like the
Mhm.
research side. So when it comes to branding and just career growth, how important is LinkedIn or maybe even just like an online presence for career growth today? And then what do you recommend for people who are just getting started with this aspect of personal branding?
Totally. Yeah. So the way I would say is first, it's sometimes it can be hard to wrap our heads around an online presence where we feel like I have to be something different online or more professional. And I, I like to simplify it. It's just our online presence is meant to serve two things. One, to help people find us just so that we exist in a space where we're more accessible, and two, so that we are answering the questions people want to know about us and what we do. And when we simplify it that way, the pressure kind of removes and becomes a lot lighter because at that point we just think about if I had a business and I had a sign on the road, I'm putting a sign up just so that people can see me, right? And they
Mhm,
might come
mhm,
by and ask for a pamphlet or something like that. And at that point, they're just asking questions. I'm not trying to do a hard sell. I'm just trying to be seen and I'm trying to be understood. And I think that's really what an online presence is all about. You just giving yourself the opportunity to be seen by the people you want to help and giving them the opportunity to understand you better. So, my biggest suggestion would be if you're in a space of building your online presence or growing it, one, showing up where you already naturally enjoy interacting with people. I think sometimes we force ourselves to be in places where
mhm,
we don't even enjoy showing up. So if
mhm,
it is LinkedIn, that's fantastic. It's an awesome space to network and reach out where it doesn't always feel like you don't have permission to send a message to somebody, right?
mhm,
If that's a place where you enjoy showing up, that's fantastic because you're more likely to do it more consistently. And I think that's also the name of the game, showing up in a way that it's your strength so that you can be consistent there. And then when you are showing up, do it according to the way that works best for you and your style. If it's doing reels, go do post some video content on there. If it's written posts, I'm a writer. I love to write, so I might share my hot takes or maybe a mini thesis that I break up into a couple posts. It's I think it's more about leaning into, again, our identity down to how we just are intentional with the way that we show up, even the format or the media that we use.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that makes sense because going back to the reels that I do, and I know I've said this before, but it like when I first started doing reels, I was nervous because I was like on other socials like Instagram and YouTube and things like that. I was totally fine with my reels, but I wanted to bring them over to LinkedIn and I was like, "Oh, I don't know." Just because, it's a whole different vibe on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right? And then also I'm ranked number 1 in the US and number 7 worldwide for language education on LinkedIn. And so I was like, "Oh no, are people going to think that I'm not professional and things like that?"
Yeah.
So I really struggled with it, honestly. So I just reached out to people that I trusted and I showed them some of my reels and they were like, "Yeah, but this is amazing. Like, honestly, just do it." And then after I thought about it, I was like, "You know what? It's this is authentically me. This is definitely a part of my
Mhm.
branding. And if people dig it, awesome. If they don't, that's fine too, because I'm not going to resonate with everyone." And I'm saying this because my reels on LinkedIn are some of the most shared content that I have. You
Isn't that
wouldn't think
crazy?
that, you
Yeah.
know? You wouldn't think that because I'm dropping knowledge over a trap beat and people in these very highbrow positions are sharing
Yes.
it. When your branding is clear and they have a sense of who you are, that is what matters.
You nailed it. And I'm so glad to hear that you leaning into your strengths is serving you so well. I mean, that's everything we can want for our online presence, getting to show up the way we want to, and it works and people love it. Woo!
Yes. Yes, and that's why I'm glad that you said that you don't need to change who you are, because a lot of the people that we serve, they're naturally what people would identify as like introverted, or they're quiet, they're reserved, especially from certain cultures. They can be extremely reserved. And so sometimes you're right. Some people do feel like they need to change who they are or to, be more outgoing or something like that. And it's just like, no, you can show up in
Yeah,
your authenticity and people are going to resonate with that.
absolutely. And it gets to
People are
be
going to resonate.
fun.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Because like for me and with my personal branding, I was just like, it it doesn't have to be boring when you're learning this stuff, because we work with people who are fluent already, so we don't teach English. And so it's like it doesn't have to be so textbook, because we focus on things that are not textbook. So my branding should not be textbook either. you know?
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
gotta permeate throughout. So for anyone who's listening and they're afraid to show up as authentically them, even though I'm not I'm a native English speaker, it doesn't matter, because the theme here is showing up as yourself
Mhm.
and being clear in that. So yeah, I'm glad that we really are nailing that home. um
Absolutely.
Now, what are one or two simple things someone can start doing this week to start strengthening their professional brand or their personal brand?
Yeah, and it's funny, this is gonna sound a little backwards, but I would actually start by talking to the people around you and the people who know you best and start sharing with them, even the same way you shared your reels with the people around you, right? To get a sense. Sometimes we feel like sharing publicly feels so foreign when we haven't done it immediately, right? If I'm, creating a post and I feel like, why, what is the point of even doing this? But I share it with a friend and they're like, oh wow, that was a really cool take. Thanks for sharing that with me. We realize, oh wow, my voice matters and it's appreciated. And so I encourage everyone, if you haven't started yet, start with your immediate circle. Don't be afraid to just get loved on by the people around you and let that encourage you to start letting the rest of the world see that in your online presence. I think the second thing that you can do if you're already online is start writing down your perspective of who you are and what you do, and then ask people for theirs as well. So often we can be stuck in our own perspective, but as soon as we ask for some outside input, we realize all these other amazing things that people see in us and about us that we can start to communicate directly ourselves. I think with my own clients, it's so often that we underestimate what we do and the impact of it. But when we hear
Mhm.
it from someone else, it's easier to face it and accept it.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And when it comes to this space for, not non-native English speakers in healthcare, this is has nothing to do with the speech, because when you focus on your branding and you gain confidence in that, that confidence is going to steep in your ability to speak English.
Absolutely.
People may not think that there's a link there, but I promise you there is. There really is.
Absolutely. Those conversations lead to so much and whether it's just l- allowing yourself to hear those different perspectives. I think that's really when language becomes so beautiful when we're hearing not just the words, but we're hearing the perspective around that phrase or perspective around that opinion. That's when we're reaching a whole nother level of fluency.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, finally, what final words do you have for non-native English speakers in healthcare who are ready? They're ready to be seen, they're ready to be remembered, they're ready to be respected. What would you say to anyone listening?
Oh, I would say here Feel free to write your story and not that you have to let your audience or the world write it for you. As you're going out and sharing who you are and what you do, feel free to own what makes you you and not have to mold yourself into what you think your audience wants or what you think your client wants or what you think that next opportunity wants from you. Feel free to really embrace what you know and truly believe in and let that guide you as you develop it so that you are always in alignment and always confident in how you talk about who you are.
Love it. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm smiling from ear to ear just because these are the kinds of conversations that we need to let people know that it's not just about your grammar. When you're already fluent and you use English every single day, you don't need to go to English class and learn the language over. No, it's about these types of things to elevate what you already know.
Absolutely. I think something too that's often underestimated, and I take this from my own cultural background, is feel free to bring in those phrases and
Yeah.
what is it, idioms that you use for
Mhm.
yourself in your own culture to English. Even if there's not a perfect translation, it's just another way for you to bring that piece of your identity to the forefront and let people know I'm not trying to, let's say, what is like English myself. I'm just
Mhm.
speaking English and bringing my identity with me.
Right. You do not have to erase your identity just because you're a
Exactly.
non-native English speaker, and your personal branding really helps with that. Amen, 100%. All right, so Blessing, where can people find you online?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I am on all the social medias, but I hang out mostly on Facebook. Otherwise, you can check out my website. It's blessingsantoro.com. That'll take you to my business site, which is Blissworks Brands. We are a branding company, so that's what you'll find.
Awesome. Okay. And the links for that is in the description box below. And if you're a non-native English speaker in healthcare, whether you're the doctor or the healthcare organization, please join us in the academy. It's free for anyone in healthcare, and myself and my team are standing by to help. The link for that is in the description box below as well. So, Blessing, thank you so much for coming on. This was such a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Devin. This was such a pleasure, and I'm truly, truly amazed by your work. You're doing something amazing here.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I really hope that anyone listening knows that it's not just English. There's a bunch of other things that are keeping you stuck. And this is one of them. So if you focus on your presence, your overall presence, how you show up, that can make your English better. All right. So thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.